upper respiratory issues, so sinuses, ears,
Mm,
throat, and then it started to become more into the digestive system. So it became more of acid reflux, um, really bad gas, cramping, and just feeling uncomfort. And I mean, all of this
mm.
started weighing on more of my mentality, my emotions, and basically overall mood. And that was probably when I was about 25, 26 when that happened. When that was like, when I was at the lowest of the low and I had to make a change and the doctors weren't going to help. So that's when I had to really switch it up in my approach.
We're two suave human beings. It's so good to see you, buddy. Thank you so much for making the time to share your story with us and such a big part of your life with us. Um, I really appreciate it. And before we get started, I was thinking that we might just take a few minutes to give a quick introduction about ourselves before we delve in. So, would you like to get things started?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, man. I'm always happy to get on here with you, especially with these breaking out of our comfort zone series that we're just beginning to embark on. It's pretty fun.
Hell yeah!
So,
Hell yeah!
yeah, for everybody, my name is SinJin Larson. I live in Boulder, Colorado. I moved here about a little over a year ago. I started a health and wellness company practice about a year ago that I've been just slowly seeing how I fit into this realm of the health and wellness industry and where I really am finding my unique path as a practitioner, and which we're going to kind of get into that in this conversation. So, I mean, other than that, I'm pretty young guy who loves to be outside. I like to garden. I like to learn about permaculture and all that entails. Today I was looking at bow and arrows. So a goal of mine is to get into hunting by the end of this year, by the end of 2022, and see where that takes me. So I don't know if I'm going
Wow.
to use a gun or a bow yet. I'm leaning towards a bow, but I would like to really just be able to get out there and have some meat in the freezer for the winter time and really be able to make that connection and make that a part of my life. I don't know if that's really a whole like what people are wanting to hear about me, but that's that's what's going on in my life at
No,
this
I
moment.
think I think it's great because you and I haven't chatted in like a month, and I love you. Like we get together, we get along really well, and so it's amazing for my own curiosity of like, hey, what's going on in the life of Sinjin, to hear about this, which is great. And just on that note, I want to say that some of the other things that Sinjin and I connect on is sort of the breath work that he does. I think is something that I've learned from him in this regard. And then as a result, sort of just playing with cold water and its restorative effects on the body. Sinjin is someone who, did quite a few cold plunges, and I've learned quite a bit from him in this regard as well. So without further ado, I'm going to sort of take a minute or so to talk about myself and sort of the series. So my name is Farhan. I am an aspiring Renaissance person. I want to make Leonardo da Vinci proud of me. And so as part of that, I am a public health professional. I'm a musician. I am a writer. I am a body positivity artist. And I am somebody who wants to um, help change the world by showing everybody how I live and how some of the people I meet in my travels live, And that's why I started the Get Out of Your Comfort Zone series, because one thing that I learned pretty early on is to grow, to expand, whether you're looking for success or enlightenment, requires you to grow. And in order to grow, you have to go into a territory you have never gone to before, right? So that you can expand into it, so that you can grow into it. And so as a result, as part of taking that step, you have to embrace the sensation of being uncomfortable, with getting out of your comfort zone, right? And things that you already know that might be stagnating you. So how can you add new data, new information to your entire being so that you can have new realizations to enrich in your life and what you're trying to accomplish? And so with that, I wanna turn it back to SinJin, and ask you, tell me about what your youth, before you got sick looked like, right? So give me the summary, health, physical, mental, just social. What was that like? Paint me a picture.
Yeah, so I was a very active child. Played all different types of sports, including karate, football, baseball, basketball, soccer, golf, camping out in the woods, hiking, running around, just being a kid pretty much. And I had asthma basically since I don't even know when it started. I had it all as a child my whole life. And
Mhm.
that's really all I can remember for an illness. Other than that, I mean, I was really healthy, good energy. I had really great parents that wanted me to do a lot of different things. So I was exposed to a lot of different things as a very young child. I mean, I was, which is really, I'm very grateful for now being an adult because I can notice myself be very agile and I have a very good sense of direction, but also just good like posture, good athletic ability. I think because I was exposed to so many things as a child and being energetic and having
Yeah.
freedom to explore. And I mean, pretty much was like that all the way up until really until college. So
Okay. So let's talk about that, right? So like when you got to college, paint me a picture. Paint me a picture of like the first moment that you realized something was not right, and like what was that physically? How what were some of your symptoms at the beginning, and then like as the intensity of your illness increased, how did that evolve? So take us through that journey of, grappling with your illness.
okay, well, I'm gonna have to bring it back a little bit into high school because the moment that you're speaking of actually happened in high school. It just I didn't really progress
Mm,
into taking action or really, feeling the like the hardcore effects of being ill until college. But I started questioning things in high school. So
mm,
there was a couple of times where I would come down with bronchitis and nobody really ever heard of like I never heard of anybody getting bronchitis around me. So that was like a very
mm,
interesting experience that I had because when I spoke about it to other kids in my class, they were kind of like, "Whoa,
mm,
that's pretty serious." And to me, it was
mm,
just kind of like, I mean, yeah, I was pretty sick for like a week or something like that, and got the regular medical treatment of prescription drugs, uh, like a Z pack and those types of things along with my
mm,
inhaler and things like that that I was using for asthma. But when I started to really, like, I guess you could say, awaken a little bit, I wouldn't say I was awake, but I started awakening and questioning things. Was I was camping with my friends, and we would be like out in the woods doing our thing, and I would be
mm,
carrying around an inhaler. And I just remember
mm,
looking at it because I've had so many times where I would go out camping and I would have to
mm,
really make sure I had my inhaler or it would become like an an anxiety issue because I didn't have this thing that in case something happens to basically save me so I could breathe again.
Mm.
So I remember like looking at it out in the woods, and I'll never forget this moment. Is that I remember looking at my inhaler, and I'm like, my ancestors and people of the past didn't have to carry around this thing. Why do I have to carry
Mm.
this thing around? Like this doesn't make sense. Like people before me survived without this. Why do I have to
Mm.
why do I have to have this thing on me all the time and basically live with it? So
Mm.
that was the big question. And
So powerful.
yeah, and so as time went on, I didn't really go further than that. I didn't really go further than how do I not use this anymore. I kind of just was questioning
Mm.
it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when I got into college, that's when I started obviously partying more, drinking a lot more. I was smoking at the time. None of these things are
Mm.
good for asthma, obviously, but they're also just
Mm-hmm.
not good for the immune system. So my immune system would tank like pretty heavily, especially with all the stress around like testing and
Mm.
work that you do in college, like trying to pass all the tests in your courses and exams and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And
Mm-hmm.
just that added extra stress, the the asthma, and then the all of that kept turning into more bronchitis actually. So I would have
Mm.
bronchitis like consistently, like multiple times in a year, and I would get the same kind of
Wow.
help of Z-Packs, antibiotics, prescriptions, different types of basically just different types of drugs, really. And it'd go
Mm.
away, and then there came a point where it would only go away for about 10 days, and then I would be
Mm.
sick again. And that's when it was like
Wow.
out. That's when there was like anger starting to build inside of me because there was no solution at that point. It was like I could go in there and I already knew it was. I knew what they were going to tell me. I just basically was like, give me the script. Let's do this for 10 days, and then nothing would happen, because I was living the same lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So basically, would you say the way you just described it, that that was the penultimate, darkest, most severe set of symptoms that you had?
No, I think it got a little bit worse as a few years
Okay.
after I
Tell us
graduated
more.
college because
Tell us more.
because I kept kind of doing the same thing and not getting
Hmm.
any better results, and then it turned into more digestive issues, and so it just basically it started snowballing is what happened. Is
Hmm.
that it was from the respiratory issues to the upper respiratory issues, so sinuses, ears,
Hmm.
throat, and then it started to become more into the digestive system. So it became more of acid reflux, um, really bad gas, cramping, and just feeling uncomfort. And I mean, all of this
Hmm.
started weighing on more of my mentality, my emotions, and basically overall mood. And that was probably when I was about 25, 26 when that happened. When that was like when I was at the lowest of the low, and I had to make a change, and I knew the doctors weren't going to help. So that's when I had to really switch it up in my approach.
Okay. So while you were talking, right, I noted all of the ways in which Western medicine failed you, right? So uh, antibiotics, this like fixation on your respiratory system, okay, bronchitis. There's something going on with the bacteria, so let's treat it with antibiotics. The other thing, that you said is just, anxiety related to, having to carry around your inhaler. And then when you got into some of the depths of the details around when things were at its worst, you were interacting with the healthcare system in those specific other ways that weren't really curing you. What else? What are some examples of, if you can, if there are any, of other instances that Western medicine tried to like say, oh, we're gonna try this, and it didn't work either.
There wasn't too many other ways. I remember going
Okay.
into an ENT, which is an ear, nose, and throat specialist, and
Mm,
they put a scope down my throat, and they were saying I had some polyps and some other things going on. It was really red, but they couldn't really, they couldn't really diagnose anything with the scope other than what it was like. It was called like laryngeal something, some long word that I can't even remember, can
mm,
barely pronounce, obviously. And
yeah.
I asked the woman, the specialist, because she wrote me another script and told me
Mm,
what I needed to do, and she actually gave me a sheet that had like a list of 5 different foods. It had like garlic, tomatoes, and
mm,
some other foods on there that were like you should avoid these foods. And I just asked her. I was like, well, isn't there anything? Because at this point, I've done like quite a bit of research on what's going on, and
yeah.
I just asked her like, okay, well, isn't there any more like dietary things that I need to be looking into? And
Mm,
she looked at me and she's like, well, I actually only took one semester of nutrition course throughout my whole training to become a doctor. And she was like, "It sounds like you're very interested in it, so maybe you should go and like take some nutrition classes or courses because I
mm,
wasn't really trained in that."
mm.
And that's when it hit me of like, okay, I'm talking to somebody who has like no idea of another way.
Yeah, and you know what, man? Right now, I want to recognize the honesty of your doctor with you.
Yeah,
She put her ego aside and said, you know, I don't know that much because I only took such a limited amount. And acknowledging your intelligence, your role, your stake as you know, somebody who's engaged in their healthcare, you know, and empower you to pursue that. Um, I think that is special. That is unique. And I want to acknowledge that.
it's super special. I mean, she was the first person that actually gave me like essentially a north star to look somewhere
Yeah,
else because if she wouldn't have said that, I wouldn't have really known. And
yeah.
I mean, I would have been able to look for it more because of the strongness of depth that I needed to heal, but
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have been able. It wouldn't have been as like it was almost confirmation of like, hey, there's something else out there. I don't know what it is, but maybe you should go and figure that out. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been always grateful for that one specialist because of her being
Mm.
able to say exactly that.
So let's take a bit of a step back because, you know, you mentioned how at this point when you had this very important meeting with your physician that you'd already been doing a bit of research around, you know, contributing factors. So let's take a step back and walk me through the journey, right, of how you uncovered or gained awareness to there might be a way out, or like, you know, saw the first, first the first glimpse of light, of hope, of something to grasp onto. Walk us through, and the audience through that whole journey, turning point.
Well, there was a lot of slow experimentations I was running on myself, and
Mm,
it eventually started ramping up and ramping up, and I can get into that. But all what's coming to my mind is there was this one guy on the internet, and I haven't researched him in a while, but his like website, or the way he basically introduced himself on the internet, was Chris Beat Cancer. That was his name, Chris Beat Cancer. Because at the time I didn't know what was going on with me, and the internet's one of the worst places you can go when you have no idea what's going on, and you just start researching things, because it will tell you ridiculous things. And doctors know this now, because they're like, you go in there and you tell them that you researched it on the internet, and they're like, oh my goodness, like, it's going to tell you you're going to die, and you're really not, like, they know you're not going to die, but when you're not getting, the answers from your doctor, you're still going to do your own, like, at least somebody who really wants to heal is going to do their own research. So they're going to try and figure it out, and they're going to have to go through that swamp of just like basically bad information. Yeah. And by the way, all this scary information comes from like the Mayo Clinic and like these major like health websites that will first pop up on Google. But anyways, I found this guy named Chris Beat Cancer, because I didn't know what was going on with me, but basically he was talking about how he recovered from stage 3 colon cancer, and how he did it. And he went through a conventional way. He got part of his colon taken out and removed, but he still knew that it comes back and people can, still die from stage 3 cancer in this way. So he took that approach plus a more alternative approach. And I just studied everything that he was doing and listening to him and watching all his webinars. And he would have all these different doctors on, different alternative health and wellness practitioners on, and different people speaking out about how people are actually healing from cancer, and it's not like this doom or gloom thing, and that like you can actually heal from this in a natural setting as well as conventional setting. And that's really when I started on a different path, was listening to him and starting to do some of the protocols that he recommended, at least the lifestyle that he recommended, and that's where I started to really begin my journey, was through finding him and then moving on from there.
Nice. So that's amazing. Thank you so much for illustrating sort of the turning point for you, and sort of what eventually led to the aha moment, right? So let's talk about the aha moment in a way that represents your healing, right? So here we have, and I'm going to summarize it for our audience, is the turning point was when you came across this person who survived cancer in a more integrated health manner, sort of taking into account the more holistic nature of health, like diet, gut health. And so walk us through, after that conversation with your PCP, which was the next step, who she really encouraged you that, hey, you might be onto something. You should take more courses. Tell us about those courses, what you learned, and like how you started to form your realization of what was contributing to your illness, the aha moment.
Yeah, so she didn't recommend any courses or anything. She just basically left it at that. And that's when I found Chris Beat Cancer around that time, and I started doing a lot of juicing and a lot of fasting, and I was getting into different yoga practices and meditation, things to really calm the nervous system, because that was one of the major problems. Was I was so ramped up all the time because of being sick that I was always in this fight or flight mode, because I was angry, I was sick, I was stressed out, and that's not going to help you heal. The way you heal is being in the parasympathetic state of really like resting and digesting and repairing. And so as time continued on, I basically did a lot of things, like I said, through the internet, just experimenting with myself and all these ways of fasting and just trying anything alternative. I didn't really think of anything integration wise at that point. At this point, I'm looking at all the extremes. I'm looking at like breatharians and the vegan raw vegan diets and just juicing and like just going really extreme for like a few months of doing different things. And probably more like closer to a year or two. And eventually I came across a podcast that really went into what integrative health is. And he's a naturopathic doctor. He talks about all these different imbalances that he has helped people overcome. And I just would listen to his podcast every single day, multiple times a day, for close to 6 months. And it sounds like a long time, but I was very skeptical as well, because I've been trying all these things and I wasn't getting the results I wanted. And, I just had a lot of questions, but everything that he was saying, was ticking the boxes, like it made sense to me in my mind. And eventually, I got some functional medicine lab tests, and I had those read to me by a health coach from Boston, Massachusetts. I was in the Florida Keys at the time, so it was pretty, in my mind, a risky move. I didn't have a lot of money, so I just spent a bunch of money on a lab test, and to hear about results from somebody that was, all the way on the other side of the country. And, got the results, and she gave me her recommendations, and I literally just took her recommendations and I just followed them step by step. And I got a lot of results very quickly, like within 3 months. And that was the aha moment, was like essentially doing research, and from that research, making the best decision that I could for what I knew from all the research I've done, and just trusting it and just putting my faith into it that, I did my homework. I'm going to follow through with what I just invested in and not like mess with it. And it wasn't easy. I'll even say that I didn't follow the protocol to a T, but my whole lifestyle was completely changed by following the recommendations, and I got a lot of results very quickly. And once that happened, my mental clarity was back. My energy was like I've never felt it before, probably since we talked about in the beginning, like when I was a child. Like my energy levels were back. A lot of symptoms, like the digestive symptoms that I talked about, were gone. And honestly, one of the biggest things for me is that I haven't had asthma since. So it was a huge shift in my life. Like it was probably the biggest shift in my life in that moment, in that about span of 3 months when I was doing.
And thank you. Yeah. And thank you so much for bringing things full circle, right? Because we started this whole story with you being dependent on your asthma and it being on the inhaler and it being a source of anxiety for you, and that moment of being a free thinker, a critical thinker, and looking at this inhaler and saying, my ancestors did not need this. Why am I holding this in my hand? And for you to be in a position now where you no longer need your inhaler, how beautiful is that? How beautiful is that? The realization of it. And so, before we get into, the results of your functional medical labs, can you please, for the audience, explain what a functional medical lab, is as it relates to what it tests, what kinds of things you have to contribute, to do it. Walk us through, what a functional medical lab test or series looks like.
Yeah, so there's all different kinds. I mean, there's probably more than I even know about, but they range from anything
Okay.
from testing mineral levels, vitamin levels, your microbiome, so bacteria, fungus, parasites.
Mm,
They'll test adrenal levels, hormone levels, thyroid levels, omegas, omega 3, omega 6s.
mm,
They'll test things like even more just toxic levels. They'll test things like
mm,
mold, um,
mm,
a whole range of things that functional medicine lab tests can test for.
mm.
And
Awesome.
excuse me, they're a little different than your regular blood test
Okay.
in the sense of there are some blood tests, but they're not through IVs or not IVs through like a phlebotomist. They would be more finger
Mm-hmm.
prick pokes. So you just
Mm,
prick a little piece of your finger and get it to bleed, and then you put the blood onto a card and it dries. So it's a
mm-hmm.
dry blood spot test. So there's
Mm,
those. There's urine tests. There's hair samples. Um, and stool samples, and those are basically the ones that I know about and that I actually run at this point in my life that I can run for other people. Um, and I mean, the way you can get them is you can find a functional medicine doctor or practitioner. You can ask your doctor, your MD that you have now, if they can run anything like that. I'm not
mm-hmm.
too sure. They usually they might be able to, but I don't know if they would know how to read them, if they would know how to interpret them because of their training.
Yeah.
And or you can come to someone like myself, and basically, I mean, they can do them in house for you, the practitioner or the doctor, or you can do
Mm-hmm.
like ones like I use. They get sent right to your door. So
Mm-hmm.
you order them and they come right to your door, and you follow the directions and essentially send them back through the mail to the lab testing
Mm-hmm.
facility, and then they send that data to me, and then
Mm-hmm.
or your doctor or your practitioner, and they will
Mm-hmm.
interpret the data, and from their their training, their knowledge, and their understanding experience, they can give you
Mm-hmm.
recommendations then from what that data entails.
Okay. Okay. Great. And I don't think we need to get into the details of like specifically what your test results read and like, but suffice it to say that, once we knew what was off in your functional medical lab exams, the naturopathic doctor that you consulted with, was able to give you recommendations, and as a result, you saw, very soon, differences in how you were living. And so my question to you is, you know, um, a naturopathic doctor did that for you. And basically, what you've done over the last few years is build up your knowledge to essentially be able to interpret the functional medical labs for someone else. And are you also in a position to recommend, ways to remediate that or treat those? So treatment protocols, is that something that you do as well?
Well, first of all, it wasn't actually the naturopathic doctor that was giving me the recommendations and reading my results. It was actually a health coach that was trained by that doctor. So she
Oh,
wasn't even a doctor herself. She was just a wellness coach that was trained in nutrition and other things.
gotcha.
So she just had the knowledge and the connections to be able to, and the training to be able to do all that for me. So I got a lot of my
Mm,
help, not just from listening to the podcast and stuff, but from actually somebody
mm,
who's not a doctor that just who knew her stuff and knew how to help and knew how to interpret
mm,
labs and be able to then give me her
yeah,
recommendations from what she knew. And that's essentially what I do. That's what I am. I'm a health
gotcha.
and wellness practitioner that has this similar training to her. And I do not treat or cure or diagnose, so I wouldn't give out a treatment to anybody. It's more health education and recommendations. There's a lot of verbal things that, you know, you can't really be messing with, since I don't have the right types of papers, right? I don't have the right training. I didn't go to medical school. So I can't actually say that I treat or cure or diagnose anything. I didn't go to medical school to get that training to be able to understand how to do those things. But what I have been trained in is to be able to understand how important lifestyle is, understand how different stressors of your environment and who you are and what you're going through, what you're basically what you're deficient in and what you're toxic in, and be able to utilize functional medicine lab tests along with all this other holistic lifestyle training that I've had, to be able to integrate those two, to be able to help other people with recommending labs or interpreting lab tests.
So let me ask a clarifying question then, right? So say somebody gets a functional medicine lab test done with you and coming to you for help in interpreting them. Say they're, you know, sort of magnesium, which is one of the minerals. I'm gonna make up a scenario on the spot. Their magnesium levels are out of whack, right? Are you in a position to tell them, hey, these are the kinds of foods that you should be eating more of, or, you know, this is a supplement, or this is the best way to supplement, you know, magnesium into your diet? Like, do you sort of help with treating that imbalance to bring it back up in balance?
Yes, absolutely. I help
Okay.
with being able to help people rebalance
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
bodies through health and wellness education.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
wouldn't just be
Awesome.
like, it wouldn't be just to like play on that example. It doesn't have to be like eat more food or take more supplements. It can also be like take out stress of your life. Like, you
Yes.
don't need more. Sometimes you just need less, and that equals more.
Yes. 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 For sure. For sure. Especially if it's, you know, like, so part of what you might be doing is doing a comprehensive, you know, sort of assessment of, you know, what does your typical diet look like now? You know, do you smoke? Do you drink? You know, what kind of job do you have? And so, like, really getting to know this individual. So here's my question, right? So what value do you add as part of your service, right? So like compared to this health coach and what they charge you to basically help you, how does your service add value? Like, do you offer, you know, because you're sort of starting out, comparably you're more affordable, or do you have like, what is your edge? Or, you know, talk to us about how you add value in this regard.
Well, I pretty much follow the same guidelines and principles as the health coach that I went to. And this is a good
Mm-hmm.
question because this is something that I've been actually navigating for myself, and how I can really create a practice that is my own, where I do provide a value, a service, a solution to somebody that really fits who I am, that really plays into the gifts that I have, that plays into what I really am interested in, love, and have, you know, talent and skill in, to be able to
Mm-hmm.
provide that and be different than what's already out there. So that is
Mm-hmm.
actually something that I have been learning and developing in myself over the past year, because I
Awesome.
did start out basically just following it by the books, and that can get results, but in a way it wasn't really working for me, because I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't very enthusiastic about it
Mm-hmm.
as I needed to be, as I wanted to be. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really been my own journey through the last year of really discovering what my edge is, where that
Mm,
value is that I can provide, and
mm.
that uniqueness, that niche, or whatever it may be, to be able to
Yeah,
provide to people.
but I think suffice it to say, having known you and like worked with you, that you're very hungry. You're starting off. You're still in the beginning stages, but you're very hungry. You're hungry to help whoever it is that you are working with, and being your friend, I kind of get the sense that you, in this regard, because this is so deeply personal to you, that you naturally you end up going above and beyond, for whoever it is that you end up working with. And so like the value that you add is like whatever you end up charging them, you're doing for them way more than somebody else who's just maybe a health coach, right? And who was like trained in this. You lived this illness, and as a result, how you can relate with your patients, your clients, ultimately will come out in a way that's very powerful. Um,
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much. I mean, this is getting out of my comfort zone.
yeah,
Starting a practice, being able to say that I am an integrative health practitioner, that I can run functional medicine lab tests, that I can help people with their lifestyle and really help them with chronic illnesses that doctors have
yeah,
not been able to, is it's a huge step, man. It's something, because I don't have 10 years of experience of I don't have
yeah,
10 years of education on, like, of schooling to give me a degree in something that people really rely on for their, this is their health. People really need to be, they're investing in somebody. They're investing in somebody to help give them answers, to help them along to where they want to be, to live a better life, to feel alive within themselves and their environment. And you know everything that I've learned, it is stepping out of my comfort zone to be able to just
mm,
get, like, put myself aside, get out of my own way, and be able to really
yeah.
be there for others in a way that I
And you
never
know what,
have been
man?
before.
The reason that I love you is that you're stepping out of your comfort zone in such an honest, way, filled with the pursuit of enlightenment, and with a purpose that is truly beyond just you. It is in a way for the greater good to help those outside of yourself. So that is truly commendable. Um, I want to thank you so much for making the time to be here. Sharing space with me, and sharing your story, your journey, your business. For before we sort of end for the evening, could you please share, sort of your Instagram handle, and sort of so that those who might be listening after, if they're interested in reaching out to you, that they have a way to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first, I just want to say thank you, brother. I mean, man, you are so enthusiastic, and I can't wait to interview your pioneering, loving spirit. Your, I can't wait to hear about all the travels that you've been on, and the music that
uh,
you've been making, and the person that you are becoming. So I look forward to doing that interview on this getting out of your comfort zone series. So thank you so much. And yeah, people can find me on this handle. I'm going to be, I've been in this transitional phase for a few months now, so I haven't been too consistent with my posting. So really, if they want to actually get to know me, or get in touch with me, I would say email me at sinjin@integrativenative.com. They can email me there, or they can message me here on Instagram, through this handle Integrative Native, and those are the best ways to probably get a hold of me. So
okay, so really quick, your email is Sinjin, spelled SIN as in Nancy, JIN, at integrative. Is there a underscore for your email? So integrative native, all one word, integrative native .com. So Sinjin at integrative-native.com.
correct, you got it.
And your Instagram handle is integrative_native.
Yes, perfect.
Awesome. Well, folks, that's all we got for today. Hope you had a good time. And, you know, until the next episode, keep living your best life and make sure you get out of your comfort zone. Ow! All right, brother. Thank you so much.
All right, you too, man. Love you.
Love you too.